Today's going to be the craziest day in crypto meme coin trading history. I'm very excited for today. I'm holding to a $100 million market cap on live, so make sure you guys tune in. You don't want to miss it.
Have you heard of cryptocurrency that promises to make you rich overnight? Well, such is the story of the McLaren coin. There was one influencer behind the scam, and today we're diving into the insane downfall of the IRL streamer who went from internet superstar to a full-blown scammer. Picture this, a guy once living the high life, cruising around in a McLaren, showing off his flashy toys, and pulling in thousands of viewers on every stream. Everything seemed perfect, until it wasn't. One reckless moment, one live stream, and his world came crashing down. His McLaren, a symbol of success, was wrecked, and so was his career. From being the darling of the streaming world to becoming a cautionary tale, Jack Doherty's story is wild. What happens when someone who built their fame online loses everything? Desperation sets in, and that's exactly what we're about to uncover. Let me introduce you to Jack Colin Doherty. Born on October 8, 2003 in Long Island, New York, Jack wasn't your typical YouTuber or streamer. He wasn't just sitting behind a screen casually chatting with his fans or playing games. No, Jack was an adrenaline junkie, a risk taker, and a self-proclaimed lifestyle influencer who made you want to be part of his world. His streams weren't just about entertainment, they were full-on spectacles. If you tuned in, you were treated to glimpses of his flashy McLaren, expensive gadgets, and the kind of life that most could only dream of. He wasn't just talking to his followers, he was living a high-octane life that many envied. The allure of Jack's content was obvious: flashy cars, designer watches, wild stunts, and a constant flow of luxury living. His fan base grew rapidly, driven by his larger-than-life persona and his high-energy streams. For a while, it seemed like nothing could stop him. Jack was making a name for himself and enjoying the spoils of internet fame. His bank account was swelling as his audience skyrocketed. Everything was clicking into place, and his rise to internet stardom appeared unstoppable. But as is often the case with influencers who rise to fame quickly, the fall can be just as fast. On October 5th, 2024, Jack's world came crashing down in the most dramatic fashion. During one of his live streams, Jack decided to perform a stunt that seemed all too familiar. He was driving his prized McLaren 570S while streaming. His fans, as usual, were interacting in the chat. But Jack made a critical mistake. He decided to read the comments while driving. It's a mistake that many streamers make, but one that's incredibly dangerous, especially when driving in a high-performance vehicle like a McLaren. As Jack glanced at the screen, his attention was diverted from the road. In an instant, he lost control of the car. The vehicle hydroplaned on Florida's turnpike, and in a flash, his prized McLaren was totaled in a dramatic crash. The collision was caught live, and viewers watched in shock as the car, once a symbol of Jack's success, was wrecked. But the crash wasn't just a blow to Jack's car, it was a blow to his career, reputation, and everything he had built. To make matters worse, Jack wasn't the only one who suffered. His cameraman, Michael, who was in the car at the time, was injured and had to receive stitches for a head wound at the hospital. Jack, on the other hand, was cited by Florida Highway Patrol for manipulating a wireless communication device while driving, basically using his phone while behind the wheel, which led to the accident. The crash was not only a physical wreck, it was a symbolic end of Jack's golden era. It was the moment when the carefully crafted persona of Jack Doherty, the unstoppable high-flying internet sensation, came crashing down to earth. The aftermath of the crash was brutal. Jack's streaming career took a massive hit, and he was banned from Kick, one of the platforms where he had made a name for himself. The incident made headlines, but not for the right reasons. The crash wasn't just a personal failure, it was a public one that would leave lasting scars on his reputation. His audience, once loyal and adoring, was left to question the man behind the persona. Was he reckless? desperate, or just out of control. What followed was a series of failed attempts to regain his footing, including the infamous McLaren coin, his disastrous foray into the cryptocurrency space. But Jack's road to redemption seemed to be nothing more than a series of missteps and scams, one after the other, as he spiraled further into desperation. So, what led Jack Doherty to that fateful crash? While many might write it off as a simple mistake, Jack's actions in the lead up to the crash and in its aftermath suggest a much darker, more desperate story. It wasn't just a careless drive, it was the final straw in a series of increasingly reckless decisions, a clear sign that Jack was spiraling. When you're an influencer who's tasted the high life, you're not just living for the present, you're living for the image you've built. And when that image starts to crumble, desperation kicks in. For Jack, the crash wasn't just the end of a car, it was the end of an entire lifestyle, the end of an era. The once glamorous dreams filled with flashy cars and luxury brand names vanished in an instant. And what followed wasn't a quiet retreat into privacy or an attempt at reflection. Instead, Jack took the desperate route, pivoting to something new, something risky, something that, in his mind, could salvage his reputation and bank account. Jack's next move was a bold one: cryptocurrency. In his first stream following the crash, Jack enthusiastically announced his foray into the world of crypto. "Straight cash, baby!" he yelled, his excitement palpable. He had found a new opportunity to re-establish himself. The latest plan? A meme coin that he was launching. One that was going to make everyone rich, according to him. The concept sounded simple enough. Create a cryptocurrency, build hype around it, and cash in as the value shot up. It's an enticing proposition, especially for someone like Jack, who was no stranger to the art of hype. With his following, he figured, why not turn his misfortune into something profitable? He promised his fans they would all make money together, flashing his trademark grin and making it seem like he had some kind of insider knowledge. "You know which one I'm buying? This is it," he proclaimed, acting as if he were revealing some earth-shattering secret. But while the pitch sounded familiar and even convincing to his die-hard followers, reality was far less glamorous. This was Jack Doherty, a failed IRL streamer now trying to position himself as a crypto expert. And it wasn't long before his fans began noticing red flags. The promises were vague, the coin's potential overblown, and the idea that someone with zero experience in cryptocurrency was suddenly an expert felt off to many. The coin seemed to exist solely because Jack had lost his previous platform and was scrambling for a new way to stay relevant. His pitch had all the right elements: enthusiasm, confidence, and that signature larger-than-life persona. But behind the scenes, things weren't adding up. Despite the growing skepticism, Jack's previous fans, many of whom still clung to the hope that he could pull off another miracle, jumped on board. They believed that if anyone could pull off a comeback, it would be Jack. After all, this was the same guy who had once managed to become a streaming sensation out of nowhere. But this time, the stakes were higher, and Jack wasn't dealing with a simple video game or a flashy car. He was dealing with something that could cost people their savings. As more and more people invested in Jack's meme coin, things began to unravel quickly. The coin had no clear purpose or utility. It wasn't backed by any legitimate project, nor did it offer anything that could justify its value. It was essentially a pump and dump scheme in the making. Yet Jack kept pushing forward, trying to convince his followers that this was the big opportunity of a lifetime. The cracks in the facade began to widen. Some fans who had trusted Jack with their money started to realize they were being duped. Jack's over-the-top promises and vague claims about the coin's success only fueled suspicions that this was another desperate ploy to claw his way back into the spotlight. The more Jack promoted his crypto venture, the more it seemed like he was trying to sell an illusion. And as expected, the coin's value began to plummet, leaving many of Jack's loyal followers with worthless tokens. At this moment, Jack's desperation was on full display. Rather than stepping back and reconsidering his next move, he doubled down, pulling his audience into yet another gamble. The tragic irony, he had gone from a flashy, successful IRL streamer who everyone wanted to be, to a man who was trying to rebuild his life on a foundation of lies and empty promises. Instead of regaining his former glory, he had made himself even more of a pariah. What began as a promising career became a cautionary tale of what happens when a public figure is willing to sacrifice their integrity to maintain the appearance of success. Remember Boogie 2988's infamous pump and dump scheme? Well, Jack Doherty's McLaren coin made that disaster look like child's play. When Jack launched the McLaren coin, he was confident it would be a huge success. The coin's name alone seemed like it would carry massive symbolic weight. After all, his McLaren had been a symbol of his lavish lifestyle and success. But in an ironic twist of fate, it became the very thing that symbolized his downfall. The McLaren coin was supposed to be Jack's big comeback. He had promised his followers that this new venture would turn them all into crypto millionaires. He played the part of the visionary, claiming insider knowledge and pushing the coin like it was the next big thing. But there was a glaring issue that no one could ignore. Jack, for all his charisma and flashy appeal, had zero credibility in the world of cryptocurrency. He wasn't a blockchain expert, nor did he have any experience in the space. He was simply a failed IRL streamer trying to cash in on the hype of digital currencies, and it showed. Despite the hype and Jack's promises, the McLaren coin never gained any real traction. Investors drawn in by his promises of easy money jumped on board, only to watch the market cap of the coin plummet into oblivion. What followed was a textbook example of a rug pull, where early investors found themselves stuck with worthless tokens. Jack's grand idea for redemption had imploded, and instead of riches, his followers were left holding the bag. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. Jack had based the coin on his McLaren, the same car that had been destroyed in his infamous crash. In a way, the coin mirrored his career, once full of promise and flair, but ultimately crashing and burning. His failed attempt at resurrecting himself through cryptocurrency became yet another symbol of his inability to maintain the success he had once enjoyed. Audience reactions were mixed, to say the least. Some of his fans were confused, others were angry, but most of them felt betrayed. They were the same followers who had once cheered him on during his flashy streams, and now they were left questioning whether Jack ever had their best interests at heart. Many of them had invested money based on his charisma and promises, only to find themselves with nothing but worthless tokens and empty wallets. As the value of the McLaren coin tanked, so did Jack's last shred of respectability. His reputation, already hanging by a thread after the crash, was now completely shredded. Fans who had once seen him as a beacon of internet fame and success now saw him for what he had become, a man willing to exploit his followers for his own gain. Jack had promised riches, but instead all his audience got were lessons in how not to invest in cryptocurrency. The McLaren coin disaster marked the beginning of the end for Jack's online career. The damage was done. His followers were no longer buying into his promises, and his once loyal audience had begun to turn on him. What started as a dramatic rise to internet fame had devolved into a cautionary tale about greed, desperation, and the perils of trusting influencers with financial ventures. Jack's attempt at a comeback had failed spectacularly, and it seemed there was no coming back from this one. Did Jack learn from his mistakes? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. A few months after the spectacular failure of the McLaren coin, Jack made yet another bold move, announcing the launch of a new cryptocurrency. This time, the promises were even grander. With all the confidence in the world, Jack declared, "We're going to hit $100 million market cap." It wasn't just another coin to him, it was his redemption arc. The grand comeback he desperately needed to silence the doubters and rebuild his reputation. But if Jack had learned anything from his previous disaster, he certainly didn't show it. The promotional campaign for his new coin was even more absurd and over the top than before. It didn't inspire confidence, nor did it convey any sense that Jack had suddenly become a legitimate crypto entrepreneur. Instead, it felt like a desperate grab for attention, an attempt to mask his lack of expertise with shallow theatrics. For a brief moment, Jack managed to generate a spark of interest. His loyal followers, despite everything that had happened with the McLaren coin, were still willing to give him another chance. Perhaps it was the allure of easy money, or maybe they were clinging onto the hope that Jack could finally deliver on his promises. Well, whatever the reason, people invested, but it didn't take long for the cracks in the facade to appear. As soon as the coin launched, the hype started to dissipate. Investors quickly realized there was nothing backing this new venture. No utility, no innovation, and no reason for anyone outside of Jack's dwindling fanbase to care. The charts began to tell a familiar story. Prices, which had briefly surged thanks to the initial excitement, began to nosedive. The market cap, once touted as destined for 100 million, vanished into thin air. It became clear that Jack's promises were just as empty as before. However, that doesn't stop him from trying. Jack has moved on to other platforms, looking for a fresh start. But his reputation is shot. The internet no longer sees him as the guy they once admired. Instead, he's become a cautionary. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.